What is up, YouTube? We are back again with another video. Your boy actually trying to stay consistent, and as you can see, I done got the hair trimmed up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Just a little something, something. I didn't do anything to the beard because I'm letting it grow, because that's progress. And if it can progress, you can progress. So yeah, we coming back with a different type of energy today. I think the last video I talked about legacy, but I wanted to go ahead and just be this type of channel, be the type of thing where I just talk and speak what's on my mind for that day. And of course, I'm gonna go back to previous sections, but for now, my mind, it's been kind of wandering. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's with the transition into the new year, with everything that's going on with politics, just getting older and dealing with family and stuff like that. I feel like the thing that came to me is like mental health. Like, how do men handle their own mental health, and how do we go through our challenges? How do we face day-to-day things? And because I know everybody's different, but usually I find that there's usually a collective way that majority does, rather than a minority, if that makes sense. So for me, I guess from my perspective, what I see a lot of men, especially for myself, tend to do is that we, of course, well, not, I won't say of course, but we keep things to ourselves. We keep it locked deep inside. We are usually our own motivators. We're usually our own, go-getters. We tell ourselves like we have to do this, and we do it usually for others and or for ourselves a lot. And I tend to see guys kind of be with a lot of self-sacrifice to get themselves in a better place, to be able to provide better for their family, or to bring actual value to themselves, because as I've learned, a lot of guys, this, you'll hear this in like the red pill, which I honestly kind of believe. Not everything, you take the bits and pieces, just like with any kind of information that you get, and you kind of you analyze it yourself and see what's real and what's not. But I do feel like, as men, we don't really come with too much value in this world unless you make it yourself. Because if you're poor and broke, people are gonna look at you. I mean, even when, because you're not, how do you even say that? I want to make sure I get my words correct, because I'm also practicing on that, being able to speak and hopefully not be able to use a script and just kind of continuously talk. But I find that if I can just go ahead and just go off tangents and just thought processes, with men, you don't really have too much value and too much help. I believe here in Texas, there's not really any men's centers. So if, I go homeless or someone else goes homeless, there's not really that much support for you. Like, you do have, some things with some shelters, but usually women tend to have the most kind of support and kind of get the most empathy whenever they are going through something. And I'm not saying this to mean as in some kind of like gender war or nothing like that. This is just from like observation and just being able to look around and see what's going on and doing my own research, and which I am still learning. So of course I can be wrong about anything, but I rather, yeah, I was gonna say, rather be wrong and research it later, but that's not always the best case. But I find that you're expected as a man to kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps, to go ahead and get out there. You're going to be the main one that people look at when you have a family, to go get the money, to protect, to provide, to be the support if your wife ever needs it, our husband, this different time, just to the all-rounder in kind of every situation and dynamics, to be kind of like the strong, assertive one. That's what people are kind of expecting from you, to be the the person who gets things done. And of course, like we do look at women to handle things, but that's on their end. And right now I'm just talking about men and how the world kind of perceives us, or at least what I know in the culture of the U.S., because that's where I'm from. I'm from the U.S., from big Tex. So it made me think a lot, because I go through my own thing just like anybody else, any other human does. And it made me wonder, like, how do other men handle their mental health, because when you go online, there's always, there's this whole gender war in the background of, men having to deal with everything and women don't do nothing. And in your everyday life, you kind of don't see too much really that anyway. People just kind of live in their everyday lives, and you just got different um, talking points coming at you from different angles, and it's kind of like, okay, so how do real people really handle like real stuff? And for me, I guess the main thing I can talk about is me and my own point of views, which of course everybody can be different, but for me, I tend to ball things up. I tend to ball things up and handle it myself and I don't really receive too much help or sympathy, honestly. I feel like people expect a lot from me. Like even with my family, like the family I'm nurturing and trying to grow now with my, you know, beautiful other half, people usually come to me about what's going on, like when we have with our son, like they're asking me like what my job prospects are, how do I plan to pay for this stuff, how do I plan to make more money, like what direction you're going to, like you're expected to be the leader, like I said, the provider, the protector, and you're filling in all these roles, and then depending on who you're with, they really are expecting you to make almost every decision. I don't mean that in a bad way, but that's just another added layer of weight that you have to deal with as a man, and you're expected to make the right decision. And most of the time, a lot of people expect you to make the right decision all the time. Now understand that when you have to make the decision, there comes with the risk of being wrong, and then you have to be the one to also fix that wrong, and it's tough. It's always something, and I feel like a lot of men don't really have that outlet to really talk to somebody and talk to other people. And I know you have your boys that you can talk to sometimes, but it's depending on how super macho that you might be, or how close you might be with them. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of dudes who just don't talk to the guys out of fear of looking weak, fear of sounding dumb or being made fun of, which sometimes your boys, they're not really your friends like that, honestly. And if you can't really go to them about stuff, then you might need to find new people that you can do so. Just to be honest with you, like if you call them your boys, you should be able to go to them with anything and they take it seriously and they try to help you. Yeah, we're gonna joke and we're gonna shoot the shit, and we may clown on you for a little bit, but there's a limit to everything. Like there's a limit to, okay, we messing around with each other, but there's also a time to be serious type of thing. So trying to remember where I was at. I feel like we don't really have too much of an outlet to do things. The community, a lot of men are raised to believe that therapy is mainly for women, that it's weak to go to therapy to talk about your feelings. You just kind of, you pack everything up and you keep moving because that's strength, and that's what men are supposed to do. Like you're supposed to suffer, which I do have. I somewhat agree with suffering, but that's on a whole other topic. That's with like growth and not being, what's the word I'm looking for? Not being comfortable. But I can get into that later. So write that down. This is how I remember it. But yeah, so I don't feel like we have a lot of spaces to really talk our stuff and get to express ourselves, and which is, it makes sense with a lot of guys don't really have that emotional control, because when you're raised, especially coming from the old school to the younger generation, they come off of that super masculine type of, you handle everything, you make the money, you provide, you do this, you do that. And we're in a whole different time period. We're in a whole different time period of women have their own jobs, so you might not be as needed as a provider, or she makes as much money than you and or more money than you. We have more access to pepper spray, firearms, so she may not need you to protect her like that, honestly. And police and upgraded cameras and digital footprints, like all that stuff. So if you do something, you're bound to get caught eventually. The role for men has shifted, you know what I mean? From what it used to be to what it is now, in a whole new dynamic. And I feel like men have been stuck in this whole emotional, like, I don't want to call it a time lapse, but we haven't caught up to where we are right now, if that makes sense. Because you want to feel like a provider, you want to feel like a protector, but nowadays you don't. There's not much that you can do that she can't do, and being able to talk on these outside forums, and with the way the public spaces work, depending on where you are, you may be called a misogynist. You may that you don't like women. If you ever have a complaint, you may be called just a rapist, just a rapist, just for being a man. And there's a lot of things that you have to deal with. And I know I may be switching topic to topic, but there's a lot of things to cover when it comes to it. And the more I think about it and say it out loud, the more thoughts that come to my head, and I get to say it out. So I'm probably gonna hone in on one of these eventually once I get where I need to be. But yeah, it's like men's mental health is, how do you deal with the stresses of every day where people are depending on you? You're the decision maker, you're the protector, you're the provider. You got to figure it out. If job's not going well, you got to figure out how to budget the money. You got to make sure everybody eats. Even if you don't eat, that you're the one that stays up late, and you got to grind and you got to go get it. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot, and I feel like some women do understand, but a lot of women don't, because you may not have that pressure, and then a lot of women do have kind of like a backup just in case something goes wrong, because you do have a lot of women's shelter. A lot of people do give women more sympathy, and are probably more willing to help, and aren't as judgmental, because if a man goes broke, he's not, people are thinking like, why aren't you working? You should have worked harder. What did you do? What weren't you doing? Versus a woman, it's kind of like you do feel bad for them. You kind of want to help out more and say like, okay, what happened? What circumstances might have did this? Kind of thing. You're not thinking in the same, kind of blamey way that you would do for a man that you would for a woman, because usually we have more sympathy. We do treat women differently than men, of course. So I guess, okay, to me, I should say, because I didn't ran past that part. Like I said, I do ball things up. It's tough. Like, I do know I have to find ways to go ahead and talk things out, which I try to do for my girl. I try to talk things out. I try to explain like how I'm doing, but I feel like honestly, you shouldn't treat relationships like that. But I feel like sometimes when you're in a relationship and you deal with women, that even though they want to know what's going on, it's kind of hard for them to handle what's going on depending on who you're with, because they may take things as in they're not doing enough, which they could be doing plenty, but it's just certain things that you as a man, you just have to handle. And that they're doing a bad job, that it makes them feel bad, and then you have another problem of having to make sure that you console her while you consoling yourself. So it's sometimes not even worth it, because there's times I'm frustrated because I'm having to figure out how to make more money to provide and get us to where we need to be, because I have goals as a man. I want to be financially free. I want to be able to move and do things and take vacations when I wanted to, and that's just me, because that's just who I am. And to be able to provide for my family, and not to have us have to worry about us having to worry about anything, and let my son have a good life so he can choose the school he wants to go to, have the things that he wants to have, and same thing with my girl. But that all comes with added stress of trying to figure things out, and that's just even now, because with the economy and everything, and trying to raise a child is going to be tough, because you have to worry about daycare is expensive, you got to worry about food, and formula, trying to get diapers, sometimes at some point toys, and just those extra added expenses, and still being able to try not to live a life of, as what's his name, it's gonna come to me, Dave Ramsey would say, is rice and beans and rice, or just like bare minimum essentials, because it's like that's not really a way to live. Like, I get in some situations where you need to buckle down and get stuff done, but there's a lot of things that you have to think about and worry about and handle and prepare yourself for. I feel like as men to be able to be a leader and, sometimes even a role model and protector for your family and those who are around you. Because a lot of things do end up falling on you to finish up. Because there's times that, I have to step up even more to take care of things that either family or, like some other obscure situation that's, happened, and I have to sacrifice either my sleep or my time or, juggle things around to make things work, but also be able to take care of me and everybody else at the same time. Like for me, I'm reading a lot more because I want to learn how to actually manage my finances. I'm trying to do a real estate class because I want to learn how home buying works, and that's from what I'm seeing is the one of the top ways to actually like build wealth, and not just get rich, but to actually build wealth and have generational wealth is to own something. So I'm doing that. I'm out here, I'm a salesman, so I'm worried about how to get into this career at the same time so I have money for my family so we can move, so we can have a nice place and space for, our son, and, be able to be okay with the bills. And just in case if she ever doesn't, like, things don't work out with her job, we're still good type of thing. Because I always shoot to be able to be in a place to where if something that happens, I can afford it on my own kind of salary type of thing. So I'm worried about that and dealing with clients and trying to learn how to run a business, because after this, I want to start something that can actually bring in actual money and not have to worry about somebody else telling me whether I can come in or not type of thing. Does that make sense? Like as in, because your boss could fire you at any time when you work for somebody. Anything that happen, they just may have layoffs type of thing. If you're your own boss, you can't really lay yourself off. So just kind of stress just like that. So I'm trying to like juggle between being a dad, being able to read, dealing with like friends and relationships and like keeping up with them, having to make sure, I'm there as a support for my girl and my son and, anybody else that needs me, because my friends come to me as well and come talk to me. Being able to make sure, the bills are paid, there's food here, that I always have emergency savings built up, that I'm investing for the long haul, that, like I said before, I'm reading and I'm trying to stay educated and I'm trying to study. I'm trying to learn a second language so I can teach my son a second language, because I'm learning Spanish right now, which I keep falling off, and because I want him to have the best chance and like to be able to have a second skill, which in plus it's kind of cool to learn Spanish, I ain't gonna lie, just to be able to learn a second language and you can just kind of do what you will with it. And just working out, just keeping myself in shape as well so I can be able to do more and to last longer out here with my family and as I get up in age. So it's a lot, and I try to take care of a lot of stuff so she doesn't have to worry about it. And and just shots at her, no, nothing like that. That's just how I am, because I'm trying to, maybe I am doing too much, but I try to actually be a provider in like a safe space, and I try to help out as much as I can. So I'm sitting with my son, take over, and I help put him to sleep, just like any dad should, and spending that quality time, and then like sitting on the side and trying to read and study, uh, and figure out a way at the same time to take care of my own mental health, while also making sure that she's secure, he's secure, and the people around me are secure. So I try to work out. Reading does kind of help, taking walks, but sometimes it's not enough, and trying to figure out a good way to balance everything at the same time while you deal with stuff can be tough as a guy, just speaking from a man's perspective. So, this isn't a shot at women. This is just like how I'm feeling, how, I can see other men also feeling as well. But yeah, oh, and also I'm trying to build a store. So we're gonna see how that goes. But yeah, that's it. Just me rambling. I'll probably send around a topic at some point. So this will just be part one of just men's mental health And honestly, I'll start probably doing some research around it just to see what I can come up with. And the more I can learn, the better off I am. Which I believe for everybody, I feel like every man should be able to defend himself, to be able to handle his finances correctly, and have enough knowledge to do the things that he needs to do in his life. But yeah, let me go ahead and finish what I'm doing. I'm about to go ahead and clean up around here, just because I kind of just like cleaning. Honestly, I don't know why, but it feels good. Hopefully, see me next time. I'll probably make another video after this. But I'm waiting for the hair to get a little bit longer. I'm probably gonna give me some two-strand twists. I'm not talking like Elmer Fudd or Porky Pig. And my beard gonna grow out, just so y'all know. So it's gonna be looking good. And your boy gonna get back in that gym. Got me some creatine. Got me some whey protein powder. So we popping and we growing. So let's get it.